In Gabon, senior members of the military have appeared on television saying they are now in control of the country.
Army officers in Burkina Faso have announced the overthrow of military leader Paul-Henri Damiba.
A coup attempt that's underway in Niger.
Military leaders seized power on Wednesday.
Military coups were a regular occurrence in some parts of Africa in decades after independence. Now, after a period of relative democratic stability, they are now on the rise again. A coup is an unconstitutional takeover of governments by the military or by any other civilian to depose a sitting president or leader. And this is not a new story to Africa's political scene. Since 1950s, when different African countries started gaining independence, there has been over 200 coup attempts in Africa, but only half of these were successful. The number of coup attempts in Africa remained fairly consistent at an average of around 4 a year between 1960 and 2000. But the takeover in Gabon is just the latest in a string of coups that has taken place in recent years and comes just a month after soldiers took control in Niger. There were 2 in Burkina Faso in 2022, as well as some failed coup attempts in Guinea-Bissau, the Gambia, and the island nation of Sao Tome and Principe. Just in 2021 alone, there were 6 coup attempts in Africa, and surprisingly, 4 of them were successful. These coups are not just carried out by a bunch of power-hungry soldiers. In most cases, these are junior military officers who are tired of the old corrupt and selfish leaders leading their countries, and 6 out of these coups all happened in the Sahel region of Africa, and they are all French-speaking countries, which means they are former French colonies in Africa. To some, this is a message to their former colonial power and East-Western allies that they are no longer in charge. These coups have unfolded within the context of a wider struggle between the West and Russia for influence in Africa, where the rising tide of anger in former French colonies has left the door open for Russia, as they already have their mercenaries in some of these countries to take advantage. And here are these countries. But before that, if you are new to the channel, please do make sure you subscribe to our channel for more videos like this every day. Starting from the most recent one is Gabon. In early hours of Wednesday, August 30, a group of senior Gabonese military officers appeared on a national television and said that they have taken over power after the state election body announced that the 64-year-old Ali Bongo had won a 3rd term in office. The officers represented all armed forces in the Central African nation. They clearly stated that the election results were cancelled and then announced that all borders will remain closed until further notice and that the regime has been overthrown. And then is Niger Republic. In the country's 5th military coup since the country gained independence from France in 1960, Niger's Presidential Guard detained President Mohamed Bazoum on July 26th, and Presidential Guard Commander General Abdurrahman Tichani proclaimed himself the leader of a new military junta. And on August 26th, the Nigerian Foreign Minister announced that the junta gave the French ambassador in Niamey a 48-hour timeline to leave the country. The coup was widely condemned by the United States of America and the country's former colonies, France, as well as ECOWAS, without forgetting the African Union. The rising cost of living in the country and perception of the government's incompetence, as well as President Bazoum's plan to replace the head of the Presidential Guard, General Abdurrahman Tichani, was possible cause of the coup. Niger has been a security partner of France and US, which have used the country as a base to fight insurgency in West and Central Africa's wider Sahel region. And then there is Burkina Faso. On January 23, 2022, the nation's military base was seized by officers under military officer Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. In the same day, President Christian Kabore was reported to have been detained, and the military announced on television that Kabore has been deposed as the president. And what followed was a dissolution of the parliament and the government, including the constitution as well, under the military's command. Damiba's rule was however short-lived, as he only served as an interim president from January 31st to September 30, when he also failed to tame the Islamist insurgency. Then Captain Ibrahim Traoré took over, becoming the world's youngest ruling president at the age of 34. While still fighting at the front lines against the Islamists, Traoré has insisted that he will not be in charge for long, as election will be organized soon after the insurgency in the country has been tamed. Meanwhile, Russia has expressed support for the coup, regardless of ECOWAS, AU and Western powers condemning it. Traoré recently gained international wave when he went for the Russia-Africa Summit this year, where he said this.
Les questions que mes générations se posent sont les suivantes, si je peux me résumer, c'est de ne pas comprendre comment l'Afrique, avec tant de richesses sur notre sol, avec une nature généreuse, de l'eau, du soleil en abondance, l'Afrique est aujourd'hui le continent le plus pauvre. L'Afrique est un continent affamé. Et comment se fait-il que les chefs d'État traversent donc le monde à mendier? Voici des questions que nous nous posons et que nous n'avons pas de réponse jusque-là. Nous avons l'occasion de tisser de nouvelles relations. Et j'espère que ces relations...
And then there is Sudan. On October 25, 2021, Kenya's neighboring nation Sudan had a state of emergency put in place after Army General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan had at least 5 state officials captured and confined in an undisclosed location. Al-Burhan was the nation's leader since the military takeover in 2019 during the Sudanese revolution, when President Omar al-Bashir was overthrown and the military junta under the name Transitional Military Council took over. A peace agreement was then signed in 2020 in Juba, which allowed al-Burhan to continue to lead the Sovereignty Council for another 20 months. He, however, failed to honor the agreement and extended his reign through the coup. And then there is Guinea. In a similar fashion to other nations, Guinea armed forces abducted the 83-year-old President Alpha Condé on September 2021, and Special Forces Commander Mamadi Doumbouya released a broadcast announcing the dissolution of the constitution and the government. However, being a transformative leader and the country's first democratically elected leader, President Alpha Condé changed the constitution by referendum to allow himself to secure a third term, which sparked protests. But still, he went ahead to rule for the third term, which put the country on the edge, prompting the military to take over, and Colonel Doumbouya became the transitional president. And then Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya vowed to transition the nation back to civilian rule, but in May 2022, he announced that the move will probably take more than 3 years, as earlier proposed. And then is Mali. Mali had 2 coups just within 9 months, the August 2020 and May 2021. Mali has been caught up in an endless rollercoaster of political unrest. In their first coup, President Ibrahim Keita was removed from power by a group of military officers, which was followed by months of unrest over irregularities in the March and April parliamentary elections. Assimi Goïta, the head of the junta that led the 2020 Malian coup d'etat, announced that he has taken power and that the new election would be held in 2022, which never happened. And then there is Chad. On April 20, 2021, the Chadian president Idriss Déby was killed by the Northern Chad Offensive, a military rebel group, putting an end to his 30-year rule. His son, Mahamat Idriss Déby Itno, then a 37-year-old general, became acting president as special presidential election was expected in 2022. Itno then promised to hand over power to civilians through free democratic elections, but changed his words in October of the same year, and his rule was extended for 2 years. As mentioned previously, there were military coup attempts in Guinea-Bissau, the Gambia, and the island nation of Sao Tome and Principe, but all failed. So for the length of this video, we won't go into details with them. So there you have it. Thanks for watching Today's Africa. Please do make sure you subscribe to our channel for more videos like this every day.